Buddhe Pullarabindayatapatra Yena Tvaya Bharatatailapurna Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradeepa Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murti Puja Moolam Gurur Padam Mantra Moolam Gurur Kripa Bhakyam Moksha Moolam Guru Kripa Om Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Sadguru Bhagavan Ki Jai Satchidananda Bhagavan Ki Jai Krishna Bhagavan Ki Jai Gita Mata Ki Jai Hari Om We are discussing the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the sixth chapter where it is named as Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, and yesterday we started with the introductory sloka Anasritaha Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragni Na Chakriya. He who performs his bounden duties without depending on the fruits of his actions, he is a sannyasi and a yogi, not he who is without fire and without action. Means who has renounced action and reaction process and who doesn't perform any sacrifices. That is called, the medium is fire only. So he is not really a sannyasin, but who has renounced the attachment and the desire for reaction of his actions, and who is doing all sorts of his bounden duties, he is really called sannyasi, a renunciate. Actions such as Agnihotra, etc., performed without the expectation of their fruits purify the mind and become the means to Dhyana Yoga or the yoga of meditation. It is not renouncing the actions, but performing the actions in a right process, right way. That is, without ego, without doership and attachment to the actions and reactions and expectations of reaction, some good result will come out. All these who has renounced and yet doing his bounden duties, daily duties, though he does everything, he is called a renunciate. He doesn't do anything. This, of course, we have discussed in elaborate way previously. Doing everything, he is called undoer, non-doer, and he is the all-doer. One who doesn't do anything, he is all-doer, all-enjoyer. In that way, he is the universal being whose self is identified with the universal self and with any and every individual selves. So, he has practically renounced the individual ego and identity which is limited and which is impure. In this way, one should understand the meaning of renunciation. It is not only by getting some initiation from someone and doing nothing, not touching the fire of sacrifice, and so he will be called Niragni. He doesn't do anything, and he is Akriya. He doesn't do anything. This is not the real process. Without renouncing the attachment, desires, and the results of his actions, nobody can be real sannyasi, real renunciate within and without. This is the real meaning of a sannyasi. This is what Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna. Karyam karma, bounden duties. And in Niragni, no fire, means one who doesn't touch fire, without fire. He who has renounced the daily rituals like Agnihotra, a sannyasi is not supposed to do all sorts of these daily routine work of grihastis, so he has renounced it. He takes an oath, I am renouncing the pleasures of the earth and pleasures of the heaven, the astral world, and the pleasures of the netherland. I renounce all the attachment and renounce the enjoyments of the three worlds. So, in this way, when he takes an oath, naturally he is a renunciate, but it is only verbal. Not in one day. The moment he takes the initiation, it is not so easy to renounce everything because it is long-standing habit. Since lives we have been attached to this body and our action and reaction process, and we have been slaves of desires. So it is not so easy to renounce then and there. But some rare cases are found. Before they take the initiation, they are really great renounciers. They are not concerned with anything. So for the process sake, for a stamp. They take just initiation for, as our custom and traditions go. That the rare cases are seen where the person before taking sannyasi has been a sannyasin, and such a person has also right to take jnana sannyas without from guru. He can take sannyas by himself, keeping the witness of any idol, either Shivaling or in the temple of Vishnu or anything, wherever he likes. He goes there and makes the deity witness and takes sannyas himself. And if nobody is there, no temple is there, or any representative of the Absolute is not found, he can take sannyas standing in the river. Water is the eternal witness. And life starts from water.
Apat sannyas?
Now, apat sannyas is different. When he has no other go at the time of death, the death is just inviting and waiting for him. At that time, to fulfill the desires of the renunciation, if he has cherished some desire long before and he has not been able to get the initiation, at the nick of the hour, he can take sannyas from anyone and it is granted also. At that time he is fit to renounce everything, and he renounces practically because death is awaiting him. That is called apat sannyas, emergency case. Tatkal ticket. He have to pay a little more. That is called apat sannyas. So he says, Niragni means without fire. But he who has renounced the daily rituals like Agnihotra, which are performed with the help of fire, and he has renounced it, literally is called Niragni. He has renounced the help of the fire, which is sacrificial fire. And now he has renounced it. So that does not give the license, inner license. Outward certificate it may be. Akriya without action. He who has renounced austerities, they are called actions, and austerities of double meaning. People sometimes practice austerities, very, very hard penance they do with some desires, to have some desires fulfillment. I will be the ruler of this earth. I will be the conqueror at any cost when I fight out the battle. I will not be defeated by anyone, and I will be immortal. Nobody can kill me. Such desires. Akriya means without action. He who has renounced austerities and other meritorious acts like constructing some temples or some bathing places or roads for public or digging some uh, uh, ponds by the side of roads so that the thirsty people can appease their thirst, or planting some trees for shade and rest for the travelers. All these are meritorious deeds, and they are also done with two ways. One is with expectation of desires to be fulfilled, other is without expectation. Sacrifices are all done like that. People perform sacrifices for sake of duty, not having any return of expectation of any return out of it. Some others perform actions with expectation. There is a story on sacrifices. In the olden days, in Satya Yuga, there was a king, very great king named Pradyumna, and he performed sacrifices. Of course, he had expectations, not any particular desire. He went on doing performing sacrifices continuously for years and years, because he was a capable king. He had everything. He could do it continuously for many, many years. And as a result, where he used to perform sacrifices, the earth turns into ashes, and there becomes a great hole, and he will be bound to change the places. In that way, all around the city, everything is only holes and holes. So lastly he sought for a permanent and steady platform to perform sacrifices. That will be only the upper covering of a tortoise with that hump, the outer covering. It is so hard, nothing can pass into it. So he performed sacrifices on a big tortoise for many, many years. The poor fellow, he had to suffer, and came out the stream of blood, and there became a river, perennial river, red river, that is called Mahinadi. It is there in south. Small river and water with reddish color. Still proof is till now, and that is called Mahinadi. In this way he performed yajnas for ages, and then the chariot from heaven, from Satyalok, Brahma himself, the creator, sent the chariot with invitation, with messengers, bring him with body to Satyalok. He went there, he enjoyed so much pleasure in that realm for ages, and in the end, of course, it has to come to an end. It happened as Brahma said, "O king, now your money is over, Now the time of checkout. Get out! Then the king asks, how can I come back again? It is a very nice place, enjoyable place. So the Brahma says, people with permanent name and fame, yes, kirti, are allowed here. If you want to come back here again, revive your name and fame on the earth plane, then only you can come back. And he came back in the form of a human being, and he was searching for the name. Does anybody know the name Indradyumna the king? Nobody could remember such a name. And long-living beings. Some people lived for 200, 300 years. Some others for thousands of years. Some others for one kalpa. Nobody knew the name of Indradyumna. And in this sequence, he went on meeting from person to person who are the longer and longest beings. Nobody could remember the name Indradyumna. And then lastly, one directs to the other who is known to him as a long-living being. In that way, all the group went to Mansarovar, and they were searching for that tortoise who is so long-living being. For 56 kalpas, he has not been died. He is yet living. So the moment that tortoise saw these groups and he could recognize the king, then he hid himself in the water. So these people said, "Oh tortoise, you are such a great person. You know the secret of dharma and adharma, and it is your dharma to welcome us. We are your guests. We have come to meet you, and you are hiding yourself. How is it?" So he, "Don't fear, come up and tell us your reason of hiding." So he says, "I am afraid of that person among you. I know him, he is Indradyumna. He tortured me for so long. I am afraid of him. He might have come again to perform a sacrifice over my back." So at that time the chariot came again with the messengers, but they had to wait for some time, and the tortoise came, and he invited all of them and treated them with all sorts of rituals. And then everybody went on telling about their own life histories and how that tortoise became such a long-living being. All they shared their life histories. Some were elephants, some were snakes, or some cranes, or some owls, and such beings. They are long-living beings. And of course, Markandeya was there, and other human beings also, long-living beings. No, he is the topmost. No, Kakabhushandi also. Because they could meet, they could revive the name, so that is the end of the journey. So in that way, performing sacrifices with desire. Such persons were there. And without desire also, many have performed such sacrifices. It is not only sacrificial fire. Sacrifice is known as sharing with others or charity without expectation. That is Vidya Dan, Bhumi Dan, Jnana Dan, Anna Dan, Kanya Dan also is a sacrifice. And many other types of sacrifices are pranayama also, yoga practice also, all these austerities also, they are known as sacrifice. But some are with desires, some are without desires. That depends upon you. How do you perform it? Accordingly you get the result. And who doesn't want anything, he gets everything. If some beggar comes and prostrates you, you ask what you want, and he says nothing, I have come to meet you and take your blessing. Do you think he will go without anything? That is what happened with Sudama, with Krishna. He had expectation, but he could not express it. But the result was practically, physically, Lord Krishna didn't give him anything. But when he goes back home, he saw it was not Sudama Puri, it was Indra Puri. So this is how one who doesn't expect anything, he gets everything. So these are the ways of performing sacrifices. And one who gives up sacrificial fire is not called real Niragni, not called real renunciate, but he who has no expectations and yet performs daily abundant duties without worship, without expectations. He is real sannyasi. He who has renounced authorities and other meritorious acts like building rest houses, charitable dispensaries, because it is also called sacrifice, means you are giving relief to a diseased person. And acts like building house, rest houses, charitable houses, dispensaries, digging wells, feeding the poor, etc. This is called renunciation of action. And sannyasi, he who has renounced the fruits of his actions, that is also inwardly and outwardly. Simply taking oath will not do. You have taken oath means you have to literally follow it practically in your day-to-day life. Then only you will be a true sannyasi. These two terms are applied to him. Yogi, he who has a steady mind, that is the common meaning, ordinary meaning of yoga. He is a yogi who practices meditation and one-pointedness of the mind, that is called yoga. Means basically, these two terms, one is yoga and other is sannyas. These two terms are applied to him in a secondary sense only, who show it outwardly, but inwardly they don't do it. They are not used to denote that he is in reality a sannyasi and a yogi. In true sense, he is a yogi or a sannyasi, same thing, who has no expectation, no doership, no enjoyership, and yet he does all sorts of actions without any attachment. The sannyasi performs neither Agnihotra nor other ceremonies, but simply to omit these without genuine renunciation will not make one a real sannyasi. In this way, he starts this introduction to meditation. Introduction to meditation. Renunciation is a must within and without. Without that, no meditation is possible. And many of our friends, they say, Swamiji, I am meditating for 4 hours daily, and such persons, I touch their feet from my heart. You are great, my dear. I bow down at your feet. But after sitting here for an hour or so, they start telling their problems. Who is practicing meditation for 4 hours daily, continuously for several years? He has complained, Swamiji, I cannot overcome this calm and krodh, and whenever I see some young ladies, I am full of lust. How can I control these desires? I am very much ashamed inside. I am unable to control these impulses. What is the way out, Swamiji? Then I realize and tell them, oh my dear, how do you meditate for such a long time daily? And what is the result? It is said, if one meditates for 1 minute, once today or sometime, once for 1 week, no events, good or bad, can pollute his mind for 1 week. Such a steady mind he attains. Anything which has cause to agitate the mind cannot do it. Mind gets such terrific, unimaginable strength of steadiness. It never gets disturbed. And you meditate for hours daily and you have such problems? Then what is the meaning of meditation for you now? So, renunciation and yoga both go together for a meditator. And then he goes deeper into the matter. Lord Krishna says, Yam sannyasam iti prahu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Now he asanyasta sankalpaha yogi bhavati kaschana. O Pandav, O Arjun, take it for granted. Ultimately, what is named as sannyas or sannyasin, a renunciate, the same thing is named as yogi or practitioner of yoga. There is no difference between the path of yoga or path of knowledge or path of renunciation. There is no difference. They are one and the same. Only the angle of vision, how do you look it, that may differ from person to person. Yam sannyasam iti prahu. Whatever is known as renunciation, that itself is known as yoga, O Pandava, O Arjuna. The same thing has two names, some synonymous terms. Do thou, O Arjuna, know yoga to be that which they call renunciation. Same thing. No one verily becomes a yogi who has not renounced thoughts. Nahi asanastya sankalpaha. One who has not renounced the thoughts, whether good or bad, even the good thoughts, positive thoughts are cause for bondage. They are also to be renounced. And then he becomes a yogi, and otherwise nobody can become a yogi nor can practice yoga. Without renouncing the sankalpas, vikalpas, positive or negative thoughts, nobody can practice yoga. So the yoga process deals with the same, what is called renunciation. How does yoga starts? You have to practice yama niyama in the beginning, the path of Raja Yoga. One who has to practice the code of conduct. We have been habituated to do something wrong. It has become our blood. Nobody we find who is without mistakes. So first of all, one has to give up his habit. This is, the yoga starts with renunciation. You have to give up your bad habits and adopt good habits. That is called Yamanyam, codes of conduct. You have to control your mind by observing all these rules and regulations. So it starts with renunciation. Then asana. You don't feel easy to sit in one posture without shaking, without moving for a long time. We have been habituated to move our body, our parts of the body every now and then, because mind is restless, which is attached and identifying with the body. When the mind moves, the body has to move. When I move naturally, my cloth will be not at rest. It will also have motion. So when the mind identifies itself with the body, I am the body, when the mind moves, the body has to move. So one cannot sit for a long time without moving the body. So this is the second step, renouncing your comforts and your identification with the body. Let the body suffer. So slowly by suffering, you feel a kind of a detachment from the body. Slowly, inwardly, unknowingly, it starts. That's how the steadiness of posture is practiced on the second step. And then you have to practice pranayama. We have been habituated to breathe irregularly and unrhythmically because the breath is concerned with the actions of the body. So we don't perform any physical actions with rhythm, with sequence, with proper intervals. We have all these practice irregular and unsystematic. So you have to systematize your breathing system. That is, in other words, technically they teach it, calling it pranayama. In this way, step by step, every step is linked with renunciation. Without that, nothing can be achieved in a yogic way. So renunciation is called also sannyas. So don't differentiate between these two words. Literally, they are one and the same. Sankalpa is the working of a imagining faculty of the mind that makes plans for the future and guesses the results of plans so formed. So formed means it is already in the habit. No one can become a karma yogi who plans and schemes and expects fruits for his actions. Why we have planning, projects and our process of actions, how we should do this work, what will be the process, how it will be the, who will perform all these sections of different parts of the project. All these are planned before we perform some projects. And that is it possible without expectation of the result of it?
For a better outcome only we all plan this.
Yes, everything is according to the plan. Plan means the result is ahead. Without having the goal or the consequence or the last result success, nobody can have a plan. No project is possible. Of course, there will be little this side, that side, but we have to plan. That is how karma is done. Of course, not in a bigger scheme, not in a bigger scale, but every work we do daily, a person does his whatever is projected actions, going to school or going to the field or collecting something, doing his business, everywhere we have plan and everywhere we have expectation of success in the work, and that is getting a good result. Without that, no actions of our daily life can be performed. Everywhere we have desires, we have expectations. That's how we perform our karmas. And that is guided by thoughts, mind, and thoughts of positive and negative both. That is called sankalpa and vikalpa. Where there will be a positive thought, naturally there will be the opposite of it. So sankalpa means also vikalpa. And that's how yogi gives the, Patanjali Ji Maharaj gives the definition of yoga in the very beginning. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. To stop the thought process. That is the definition of yoga. That is our aim and object. We have to stop the mind. Thereby we can have a steady mind. So, of course, that plan is there, we have expectations, but that expectation should be practiced without expectations. Then only you can achieve that unexpected expectation. That is what we are talking now. One who doesn't want anything, he gets everything. So you should start begging without expectation and you get your work done. Everything you get. No one can become a karma yogi who plans and schemes and expects the fruits for his actions. That is not the process of karma yogi also. Yogi, one who practices Raja Yoga, the eightfold paths of Patanjali, he is also a yogi who performs actions, karma yoga, and one who practices devotion also, he also has to practice some karma without expectation. Of course, it generally doesn't happen. Oh Lord, I will worship you with 1 1/4 kilo of laddus. I should get good marks in my exam. Hanumanji, please bless me. Oh Lord Shiva, I shall offer you milk every day and come to your temple. Please do such and such. Markandeya Rishi, he was the expected child, and austerity done by Mrikand Rishi to fulfill his desire. I should have a progeny to carry out my tradition. And after a long time, Lord Shiva was pleased, and Markandeya, the son of Mrikand, he was born. And the story goes for long. Anyway, all these bhakti or worship also has expectations. But real, unexpected, unattached, no desire to have the result, such actions everywhere in all the paths, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and other paths also, both the desires and desirelessness both go together. It is your choice whatever you choose. No devotee of action who has not renounced the thought of the fruits of the actions can become a yogi of steady mind. The thought of the fruits will certainly make the mind unsteady. Lord Krishna eulogizes karma yoga here because it is the means or an external aid, bahiranga sadhana, the outward practice to dhyana yoga. Dhyana yoga is internal practice and all these are external aids. They will help the mind to be introvert. As long as the desires are there, mind cannot be introvert. So karma yoga is a stepping stone to dhyana yoga. It is a helping hand. They go together, just as two legs by the help of which we walk. One is a supporter of the other. It leads to the yoga of meditation in the course. In order to encourage the practice of karma yoga, it is stated here that karma yoga is sannyasa. Doing karma without expectation as a yoga, which is called karma yoga, without doership, you should perform your actions. So it is brought here for discussion because without karma no yogi can attain one steady mind. So karma yoga is a must, and that too, that also means bhakti, jnana or your Raja Yoga. They are parallel to each other, they are supporter of each other, and one who knows all these secrets, he practices everything knowingly or unknowingly, and that is called integral yoga. Integral yoga. Gurudev used to sing, do a meditation a little, do japa a little, do kirtan a little, and eat a little, drink a little, do everything a little, so that they will combine together and have a good result. This is called integral yoga. So tomorrow we shall see the other sloka which will also be aid to this meditation. Arurichyur muner yogam karma karanam uchyate. Why you have brought this karma yoga in meditation? You said it is the yoga of meditation, and you are discussing karma yoga, and you are discussing on renunciation. What are the process, how it comes into discussion? He will clarify all these to Arjuna. He will, tomorrow we shall see Arurukshir Muner Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate Yogarudhasya Tasyeva Samaha Karana Uchyate. How is one helping hand to the other? They are interdependent and related supporter of each other. How do they act together? Tomorrow we shall see what is called yoga, what is called karma, and how they help each other. Tomorrow we shall see. Hari Om. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasisate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadguru Bhagavan ki jai. Satchidananda Bhagavan ki jai. Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Gita Mata ki jai.